Hey, this video is going to be an introduction to sight reading on the guitar, and we're going to learn a few notes and give you a strategy that I like that works really well for learning the notes on the guitar, as well as drilling them so that you get them really sunk in there deep, so that you remember them and you can find them easily and use them. But first of all, like I do every time I start talking about a new idea, is try to drive home the reason why you want to learn it. I didn't learn how to sight read on the guitar until I've been playing for a few years, and I didn't take very easily to it. I didn't like it that much. I don't think most guitarists like learning how to sight read. We like tablature. We like chord symbols. We don't so much like staff notation, which is kind of why there's a lot of jokes out there like, how do you get a guitar player to stop playing? You put sheet music in front of him or her. It's unfortunate, but it's kind of based on a lot of truth, because typically a lot of guitarists, great guitarists, never really learn how to sight read, and they get by just fine. But I look at it this way: music is oftentimes compared to a language. Some people call it the universal language. I think there's some truth to that. But regardless of whether or not, what kind of language it is a language. It has a lot of the features of a language, and just like any language, you can speak it just fine, you can understand it just fine, that's great, but how much easier does your life get when you can read and write it? How many opportunities are available to you that wouldn't be available to you? How many ways can you communicate that you wouldn't have been able to communicate before? And also your comprehension of music gets that much deeper if you can read it and understand it and look at a score and see what's happening, and you can hear it in your head. That's how a lot of composers were able to hear music in their head just from looking at it. And it's a great skill to have, and of course you can acquire it. Some people have a great deal of natural aptitude for sight reading, other people don't, but those who don't just have to learn it, and that's what we're going to do today. And we're going to start by just taking a few notes, and I'm going to show you a strategy that works really well. I've been using it for years. All you need is a packet of regular old plain note cards that you can get at any grocery store or convenience store, preferably the ones that have they're blank on one side and have lines on the other side. Of course, if they're blank on both sides, that's fine. It's a little bit more work, but it works just fine. Then you need a pen. I would recommend not using pencil. If you use pencil, that's fine, but then I would trace over it again with pen just to make it darker. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with this note, the E note. So I'm going to hold this real close so you can see it really well. In fact, I'm going to cover up the back here so that you're not seeing the bleed through in the back. This is what the first side of your note card should look like. So if you want to pause the video and copy it, that would be a good idea. But I'm going to keep talking anyway. Now you want to make sure that you trace over 5 of the lines. You notice that I did that. I traced over, oh, there I am, traced over 5 lines, and then I drew an ending bar line here, and I drew a treble clef symbol right here. Now you might not have ever drawn one of these before. It's best to start down here, do a little J, and you go up, and then you go around and again, and do a little curly Q right there. Practice it as much as you can. If you need to even trace over one, get a music book and trace over a few of them. But like I said, it's easiest, and most people I know start down here, and they do the J, and they go up and around again. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's really not important that it's a perfect. Mine aren't the prettiest treble clef symbols in the world, but it doesn't matter how pretty they are. It's important, though, because you need this to know which way the card goes. If you don't have that, you don't know if it's this way or that way. So make sure you draw a treble clef symbol. Then we're going to draw a little note head at the top. You could fill this in if you want to. I just leave it open. Doesn't matter really, I don't think. But if you want to fill it in, you can. But it's not important if it's a quarter note, whole note, half note. Doesn't matter. We're not really concerned with duration right now. We're just learning pitches. So this is an E note right here. This is what you get when you play your open first string. Let me show you on the guitar. So here is my first string right here, this little guy up here. If I play that string open, I just played one of these. Okay? Now, on the back of your card, here's what you're going to want to write. I'm just going to put this down here so I can get to it easily. On the back of the card, you want to, and again, I would pause the video. If you want to copy this down, this is what the back of your card should look like. You have all the information you need. You have the note name, you have what string it is found on. I like to put both the number name and the letter name of the string because they have two ways of being identified. This was the first string, which is also called the high E string, so named because it's a high E. When you play that note, you're playing an E. The strings are named after what notes they sound when they're open. And then down here, the finger and the fret. All the notes that I'm going to teach you in this video series are going to be notes that are in the first position, which means that the finger and the fret you're going to use are going to be the same. So if you're going to use if you're going to play the first fret, you're going to use your first finger. Second fret's going to be the second finger, so on and so forth. So there's your note E. Again, go back through and copy your note card. Make sure it looks just like this on both sides. Moving right along. This is the next note card. Again, go ahead and pause the video, copy it exactly. This note, you'll notice, is on the top line, the 5th line of the staff, of the treble clef. This note was on the 4th space. This is on the 5th line. I'll put them side by side so you can see the difference there. Because this is kind of hard. Some people have a hard time differentiating, but you can see that this note is below this note. That's on the 4th space, just above it on the 5th line. Make sure that the note goes around that line. You got to make sure it looks exactly like this. If the note is not centered on that line, it'll be confusing. You won't know where it's supposed to be. Then the back of your card should look like this. This is an F note. It is also on the 1st or high E string. And we are using the first finger and the first fret. Notice that I just did an F/F. I didn't do finger/fret, just in the interest of saving space and making it easier. I mean, this one I went to the trouble of actually writing down finger fret. Really, if you just do FF, you should remember it, what that looks like. So now let me show it to you. So that note we just played is found again on the 1st string. Here's my 1st string on the 1st fret. So if I put my fingertip just like this on the 1st string, that is an F note. And then, of course, I would pluck my string. That is an F. So here's an E. E. Here's an F. And I would recommend that you take some time practicing going back and forth between E and F. You can use a pick or you can use your fingers, like I'm using my fingers. But if you wanted to use a pick, you could also pick the string. E, F, F. I want you to notice what I'm doing when I play E. I just lift my fingers off the strings. Some people will do this number where they kind of round, play E, F. This is a lot more effort and a lot more work. This is much more efficient. I'm just lifting my finger off the string and I'm putting it down on the string, back and forth, just like that. E, F. All right? So take some time to practice playing E's and F's. And then here's the last note we're going to learn in this video today. We're going to learn notes on the 1st string. Right here, G. Now, you might think, well, wait a minute, that looks kind of similar to E. It does kind of, doesn't it? E is on the 4th space, but if you notice, G is above the line. E is below the 5th line, and G is above the 5th line. By the way, just to reiterate, in case I didn't already, I don't think I did, but just to make sure, this is the 1st line, 2nd line, 3rd line, 4th line, and 5th line. G is above the 5th line. E is below the 5th line on the 4th space. 1st space, 2nd space, 3rd space, 4th space. Some of you might have learned the little mnemonic device there. Every good boy does fine for the lines. And, of course, the spaces spell face. F-A-C and E, face. So this is the E space, right? F-A-C-E, and the lines are E, G, B, D, F. Every good boy does fine, or every good boy deserves fudge. Here's the confusing thing. As if, sight reading isn't enough of a challenge, if you play the guitar, it's very easy to get these lines confused with strings. It happens all the time, happened with me, happens with a lot of my students. You see these lines and you think it's representing strings. These lines have absolutely nothing to do with your strings. They're just lines. Every single instrument in the Western world reads music like this, and the lines don't mean anything. If you play a wind instrument like a flute, These lines are just simply representing notes, and you just have to learn where those notes happen on your instrument, and just remember that. If you're a violinist, well, violinists have 4 strings. We have 6, and you'll notice, of course, that there's only 5 lines. So just remember, the lines don't represent strings at all. They're just lines and just spaces. So getting back to our new note that we just learned, here's G. Okay, again, if you want to pause the video, you can. Trace over and make sure it looks just like this. The reason why I recommend using pen is because you really want to darken these lines. You want to make sure these lines are really dark so you don't confuse them with the other blue lines that come with your card. And you want to make sure that you only do 5 lines. Be very careful that you don't make too many or too few. All right. On the back of your card, you're going to do this. You'll notice I kind of made a mistake right there. Let me just cover that up so you don't even see it. This is what the back of your card should look like. You have the note name, G, also on the first string, which is also the high E string, and the finger and the fret is 3. So this is on the 3rd fret, and you're going to use your 3rd finger to play that note. All right. Your fingers are on the left hand, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We used our first finger to play F, if you'll remember. F was right there, right, with the first finger on the 1st fret. Well, I'm going to use my 2nd and 3rd. Here's my 3rd finger, and there's G. Notice that I'm still on the 1st string, and I'm on the 3rd fret. You want to get as close to the fret as you can, but if you're down here, that's fine. You just don't want to be down here, because that'll be the buzz zone. Here's okay. But if you can get up here, that's preferable. The closer you get to the fret, the better. You, of course, don't want to be right on top of the fret, but right here is great. And you definitely want to be close to the 1st fret. You don't want to be down here or down here because it'll buzz, because you're so close to the finger nut down here. It's really hard to press down. It's much easier right there. So we have E, we had F, and we had G. Now that you have all your flashcards, here's what you do with them. You're going to you can have somebody else in your house, or a friend or a family member, flash them for you, or you can do it yourself. You just set them on a stand or a desk in front of you, and you go, okay, what's this one? Well, let me ask you, what is this note? Pause the video if you need some time. All right, so this is an E note. This is our open 1st string. You don't need a finger for it, but if you want to have your fingers hovering, you can do that. That's actually a good idea. Okay, what is this one? Take some time, pause the video if you need to. All right, this is our G note, the 3rd fret of the 1st string. That's it. All right, what is this one? I tricked you, didn't I? You thought it was going to be different, but it's not. That's our E again. It's important to kind of mix these up. Don't do what you're going to expect and have them, have the person who's flashing them to you, or if you're flashing them to yourself, make sure that you're not just going in order, because then you get kind of used to the order and you're not really recognizing them. So this note was on the 4th space. That's our open E string. What's this one? This is the one and only line note that we've learned today, and that is our F. That's the 1st fret of the 1st string right there. That's an F right there. So once again, just to kind of review them, we had the lowest note that we've learned today, E. Then we had our next higher note, F. And then we had G, which is the 3rd fret of the 1st string. This is the open 1st string, 1st fret of the 1st string, and 3rd fret of the 1st string. By the way, this is an F, and this is an F, and this is an F. But you want to use your 1st finger, because you don't have to go any lower than that, so there's no sense in using the 2nd or 3rd finger, because what are you going to do with these two? You don't need them hanging right here. So if you use your 1st finger for F and your 3rd finger for G, that's a good fingering. It'll make things really efficient. We're going to learn notes on all the other strings as well, but we're just starting with the 1st string for now. So take some time, go back through the video, pause it, and then have somebody, if you can find somebody else, that'd be great, to flash them for you, and go and just have them, do this, and have them, trick you, have them go back and forth and do them in any order, and have you play the note and say the name of the note. I think it's best if you say the name of the note as you play it. That way you're really learning it. You're not just learning where it is in the guitar, you're learning what it's called, and you're learning you know, what it sounds like too, because every time you play it, you say E. You know, you can kind of internalize it a little bit. You can also start learning some relative pitch, you know, because E, F, and G are going to sound different pitches. E is the lowest, and F is higher than E, and G is the highest. So E, F, G, F, E. You know, you can kind of get used to hearing that and internalizing it. Anyway, so yeah, write these down, flash them, try to have some fun with it. It does make a difference. I promise you, this will come into play at some point in ways you can't imagine. You might think, I don't need that. I got tablature. What do I need staff notation? Well, just to give you a really good real-world example, if you've ever been to a bookstore, you might see in the music section they have books that say guitar, piano, vocals. I'm going to go ahead and just tell you, it's not about the guitar. It's about the piano and the vocals. You know, and I see this happen all the time. I have students that bring in music books that they got from the music store, and of course, you know, they're thinking, hey, it says guitar, piano, vocals. This was great. It's got some of my favorite songs in there. I love this band, or I love this you know, Broadway show, and it's got guitar in it. Yeah, it's really all they're going to give you is chord symbols. They're not going to tell you anything. I had a student one time, great example. He brought in a book of Queen songs. He wanted to learn how to play Bohemian Rhapsody. So he saw a book that said guitar, piano, vocals, and he said, hey, perfect. Well, yeah, of course. You know, Queen is a band that plays, has piano as well as guitar in it. So it's even, you know, the piano parts weren't even arranged. They were the actual piano parts that Freddie Mercury played. But of course, you know, he's looking for the guitar part. Well, there's no tablature in this book. It just said, you know, just had staff notation and it had chord symbols. And that was it. That was all that was written down for the guitar. Well, anybody who knows anything about Queen knows that Queen is not a chord strumming kind of band. Brian May is a lead guitarist. He plays riffs. He plays licks. He doesn't strum chords. So if he's trying to learn the riff to Bohemian Rhapsody, you know, you're not going to find it anywhere in the music. You have to look in the piano part. And in the piano part, at some point, you could see, oh yeah, there it is. Bum, ba, bum, bum, ba, bum, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum. Okay, well, it's not tabbed out. It's written staff notation. You have to figure it out without the tablature, because the tablature is not given, and you will see this all the time. That's where knowing how to read staff notation really helps out, and really and that's just one of the ways. There's many other ways. That's just one. Is, you know, when you get a song book and you're trying to learn a song and it doesn't have tab, you have to figure it out with the staff, or you have to figure it out by ear, you know, which is fine too, and that's a great skill to have. But a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that staff notation is just for, you know, these kind of academics who are just like, you know, just got to read everything. Like, I don't play music if it's not in front of me on a page. Not at all. That's not true at all. I highly recommend learning songs by ear. I highly recommend learning songs by tablature. There's no right or wrong way to learn a song, but the more tools you have, the more ability you have to understand music in all the different ways you'll see it represented, the more options that are open to you, and the more things you can do, and the deeper your understanding of it becomes. So please, I feel you. I know this is hard. I know it's frustrating. I know it seems really tedious and pointless. It's not. It took me years to figure that out the hard way, and you know, I understand where you're coming from, but keep it up, keep trying. It gets easier, and stay tuned for more and shorter videos now that I've gotten all the spiel out of the way. All right.